got their own unique ways of living and progressing, and maybe not even progressing. You might plateau for quite a long time and then find that all of a sudden you're starting to feel like you're progressing again. It's not scary. Just don't be scared.
Hi, I'm Leanne Watson. I'm so happy to have you here on our podcast talk show, You, Me and Muscular Dystrophy. I'll be asking 10 questions of each guest, exploring the humanity and experiences of living with MD. I'm so happy to have you here. Hello. Before we begin, I acknowledge the traditional owners of country, particularly the Wadawurrung and Wurundjeri people, upon whose unceded land I broadcast with my guest as well, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. So welcome, Shae Mankey, to You, Me and Muscular Dystrophy. I'm really pleased to have you on. I've always enjoyed our conversations and you're so bright and bubbly, and we've got one lovely connection in common, and that is Kerry Williams and Accessible Accommodation, where we've both worked in her wonderful organisation, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Where she employs people with disability or people with experience living with disability or as a carer. Yeah, so welcome, Shae.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Leanne.
And are you still with Accessible Accommodation?
Yes, I am. I'm loving it. It's
Great.
a lot different from what I used to do. I spent 23 years working as a receptionist in general practice, and I loved that as well, that my condition deteriorated over COVID, and it was just getting a little bit too difficult physically to go into work. The planets aligned, and Kerry's advertisement for a role in the bookings came through, and I went, that's my answer.
That's you.
I've been there ever
That's a bit of
since.
Shae.
Yeah.
Great. It's such a rewarding role as well, isn't it? It's so lovely.
Good.
There's so many. It's just great doing something unique. There doesn't seem to be any other organisation, willing enough to help people, with disability. So it's just wonderful to be that, that voice and that help, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even know that it was a thing before I started working with Kerry. So for someone to actually go out there and, create a business centered to, directly to people with disability and their families and carers so that they can have a holiday or respite that's safe and stress-free. Wow.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, where a lot of the time, they can choose how much or how little groundwork they want to do themselves, and you'll step in and help them, won't you, with that?
Yeah.
It comes to hiring equipment and the activities, accessible activities or inclusive activities around the place when you're holidaying. But anyway, it has sounded like an ad for accessible accommodation,
Yeah.
which wasn't intentional, but it's also so worthwhile sharing that information to other people throughout Australia and the world, actually, when they eventually expand. I'm sure they will, just to let them know about accessibleaccommodation.com. But anyway, this is about you. What is your actual MD, form of muscular dystrophy, and how has that affected you physically?
So I have Facioscapulohumeral Muscular Dystrophy, or FSHD for short. I was diagnosed at age 10. I had a muscle biopsy done, which was inconclusive, but my symptoms were sort of leaning towards FSHD. So the pediatrician said to my parents, look, I think she's got FSHD. I'd probably just get her a good pair of shoes and make her comfortable. And they were devastated. And for a long time, I was in denial. I didn't want to be disabled. I didn't want to be associated with having anything wrong or being different from the other children. And for a long time, you wouldn't have known. I rode a bike, used to run. I wasn't very fast, but I used to run. I participated in sports and like netball. I did dancing, all those sorts of things. And it wasn't really until I hit puberty when it started to decline. And then my posture started to, I started to get the scoliosis. and I had the winging of the
Okay.
scapula, because that's one of the things that Mum and Dad noticed when I was younger. My shoulder blades were a bit poking out, and they
Yeah.
thought that's a bit odd. And so then I went, all right, well, we'll adapt and we'll do something a bit different. We started to still participate in sport, but as like the team leader, and I was in charge of organizing the equipment and making sure everyone was on the bus and, things like that. I was more like a mini coach, I guess you could say. So I was lucky that I was still able to participate, just not physically. And then,
Fantastic. Good on you.
yeah, so then I plateaued again for a few years, and then I hit my 20s and it sort of sped up again a little bit. And then um, eventually things started to become difficult. But as you probably know, having a certain type of dystrophy, we just adapt. So if I couldn't pick something up anymore, I'd use my foot. I pick my socks up with my toes. And that's great. It still worked. But then over time, adapting also becomes a negative, because then when you do need to do an action that you could previously do, you find that you no longer can. So I get frustrated with little things like I can't pick up the washing basket. I can't squat down and pick something up off the floor and easily get up now. Things that someone, can do like an everyday task, that's something really simple, is very difficult for myself. And it's very
Yes.
frustrating.
Right. Okay. So were you saying, when because you adapted, you were trying to adapt, do you think that might have exacerbated the loss of the function?
Yeah, I believe in certain areas of my body, yeah, by doing things like that, like my upper legs became weaker because I was no longer bending down or squatting down. Um,
Oh, okay.
and, I might pick things up a certain way because it's easier than focusing and lifting it correctly. So, I sort of lift my arm out like this rather than straight up, and now
Right.
I'm like, I
And
can't do that anymore. I should have
yeah,
continued
wow,
practicing how I
okay.
should have done it. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think part of that is like, or how much support did you have from occupational therapists and that sort of thing way back then
So
when you were?
initially, I did a little bit of physio when I was a child. I had
Mhm.
speech pathology, physiotherapy, did a little bit of hydro, but I was never consistent. My parents were always on my back about doing your exercises, make sure you do your sit-ups, do 10 sit-ups, and if that's all you can do, then just do those. But I was determined to not be different, which then led to me
Yeah.
being different. So I do feel that my lack of physiotherapy and my lack of trying myself definitely played a part in the deterioration.
Mhm.
And also, I think maybe just the progression of the disease as well. Like, there are a few others I
Yeah.
know who I would say have progressed a lot further than I have in the disease, and who no longer can walk, and, they
Mm.
can't drive anymore. And there are certain actions that they can no longer do at all without help. So I feel like I'm probably quite severe to some, but to others is quite mild.
Right. And sometimes it's that's the thing about muscular dystrophies, I think, of all types, that, we can tend to blame ourselves maybe, and, we should have done this differently, or we should have got more information here or whatever. But the truth is, even the experts don't actually know
Hmm,
how it's going to affect your body next to someone else with FSHD. And, it still might have progressed. Yours may have progressed the same way regardless. We don't know, do
exactly.
we really? Yeah.
Mum used to always say, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah,
It is
exactly,
how
that's
it
right.
is now.
So all you can do is do the best you can while it's happening, and, with each stage sort of thing, and if there's things to learn in the future from, previously, then that's fine, but yeah, you can't
Yeah.
kind of keep dwelling, can you? I
And
guess.
I mean, I would encourage those who are newly diagnosed to perhaps, continue with physio throughout their life,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it is good for your health anyway, regardless of having dystrophy or not. Being
Yeah,
physically active and everything is still very beneficial. So,
that's a good point. Yeah. So, Shae, when you were so young, you were diagnosed at 10. What did you imagine your grown up life would look like? And or your future? And how has this vision changed as MD has impacted you further?
When I was a child, I thought I'd like to be a school teacher or
Okay,
something
yeah.
like that, and I don't know why. I couldn't think of a worse job now, to be honest. I'm glad that I'm not a teacher. And, I thought that maybe I'd be married with a couple of children and, sort of like our own family dynamic. I assumed it would be something similar to that. And
Hmm.
the fact that it hasn't gone that way is not a negative. In my probably early to mid 20s, I decided then that I wasn't going to have children. And it wasn't necessarily because I didn't want to have a child with a disability. I just felt that knowing myself, the difficulties that I face with it and how, it can be hard some days and some days you can't be bothered and you just don't want to know anyone or anything. And I thought I wouldn't want to put my child through that side of it. But
Okay.
then there's a lot of life that's, it's wonderful. I've got a huge support network. I have an amazing partner I've been with for 13 years now, and my family's just the best. So, yeah, I love my life.
That's brilliant. So probably teaching would have been the only, the choice of career is probably the biggest impact that
Yeah,
MD.
that's pretty
Would you
much it,
say?
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have a huge desire to have children either. I didn't grieve my choice. Um, I had dolls as a child, and I loved playing dolls and
Yeah.
playing
Right.
teachers and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I didn't grieve that process, so that was lucky or nice for me that I was able to just make that decision and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm lucky that I have a niece and nephew who I adore, and I get to
Good.
spend time with them, and they're so thoughtful and caring, and but then they go home, and I'm like, "Thank goodness."
Yeah. uh, what you probably answered some of this anyway at the beginning, but looking back now, what do you wish you knew when you were diagnosed? Is there anything at all that you wish you'd known at the beginning on diagnosis?
I think I wish that I'd known that it wasn't going to be as scary as I thought it was.
Okay.
I think when I was about 11 or 12, my parents booked me into like an overnight camp type thing through MDA with other children with dystrophy. And it was traumatic for me because there were so many children that were, in electric wheelchairs and had trouble feeding themselves. And I was nowhere near that point, and it frightened me. And
Yeah.
I wish that someone had explained to me that they didn't have FSHD, they had Duchenne's or they had other types of dystrophies, and that wasn't necessarily my future, and to not be frightened of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was not really ever explained. And I think because we ourselves didn't know how it was going to progress, my parents couldn't really tell me other than what they'd been told by the pediatricians, which was quite negative.
That's a really important point. That's a great insight. I'm sure that would
Mm,
help a lot of people
yeah.
because that's what happens. The muscular dystrophy is just an umbrella, yeah, or not just, but it's an umbrella condition, and it's one of the many under neuromuscular conditions. But then under MD comes all our different types, of which I think there's over 25 or something.
Mm.
And then within each group, there's certain, well, I know with LGMD anyway, there's, over 30 types of LGMDs now. I don't know if that's the same with FHSD.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But
I think
that's,
there's maybe
pardon?
2 types for us. I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, that's good. But still, that's a really, yeah, that's a great insight. Thanks for
Hmm.
sharing that as well. That's great. And what do you think over the years, with your progression and life and that sort of thing, what's been your most pivotal moment? Has there been one that
I
stands out for
think
you?
One of the things that probably struck me in the last couple of years was during COVID when, we were in lockdown and I wasn't as physically active. I wasn't going out as much. We started to rely on click and collect for our groceries and all that sort of stuff. And I found that after COVID, because there was such a restriction on what we could and couldn't do, I stopped going to the shops. I've not
Okay.
gone into a shopping centre since COVID. And that's what,
Mm.
4 years now?
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, and it's great that I don't have to, but I also feel like I took a little bit of my own independence away by doing that. I used to go to the
Okay.
shops and, get some things for dinner after work, and I'd carry the bags and struggle to the car, but I still did it. And
Yeah.
now, yeah, I feel like I lost some independence and I lost confidence. I also
Yeah.
don't go out on my own anymore as
Right.
well.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel a little bit more isolated, I guess you could say, than what I used to. And, working from home and then being home a lot can be
Hmm.
a little bit much.
A bit isolating too. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I wish that I didn't lose that independence where I could just go out and go up the street and go to a cafe and have a coffee on my own or meet up with a
Spontaneity and
friend.
independence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because
Yes. Yeah.
I've physically declined since then as well, I don't get out of the car on my own because I'm concerned that if I have a fall, then I can't get myself up anymore,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
very frightening.
Yeah. Yeah. COVID has a lot to answer for, doesn't it? For many, for everyone. It's interesting um, to hear your stories as well. Your
Yeah,
experience. Yeah. Over the last few years. Having said that, like you feel like you're a lot more, isolated and than you used to be. Uh, but you have got good family and, a great partner and things around you. But where do you find your hope and joy?
my dog. I love my dog. He's my child. We do everything together. If I do go out in the car, Riley comes with me. And because I don't get out of the car, we often go just for a drive because we can. And, we love that. We go and have a coffee in the car and we people watch. And,
Right.
on weekends, Andrew and I will often go to a dog friendly cafe or a dog friendly winery.
Beautiful. Yep.
And having so many dog friendly accommodation options now is brilliant
Yeah.
because that means that we can plan getaways with the dog. So,
Beautiful.
I really enjoy that. And I think probably also when during COVID, I had another dog, Miley, who actually passed away today, 4 years ago. And it was
So,
very sudden and absolutely awful. And I never
mm,
not had a dog since moving out of home. I'd always had a dog. So when she passed away, I think it was 6 months in the house on my own, and I just couldn't handle it. We were going through
mm,
COVID. We're already isolated, and I thought, I I have to get another dog. And
yeah.
he's just been an absolute dream. So I think that's probably why I've got such a strong connection with him as well. Not just
Yeah.
because he's a dog, but
Beautiful.
because he sort of filled that space and helped me through that time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's gorgeous. Well, you might have already answered this then. Who couldn't you live without and why?
definitely the dog. But absolutely Andrew, he's my rock. He even when we first met and I said to him, I've got dystrophy and kind of gave him a rundown of what might happen. It didn't deter him at all. And he's just always been so supportive and loving and nurturing of my needs. He actually encouraged me to get a wheelchair for when we go out and about back in about 2018. Because I was always adamant on not getting a wheelchair. I used to say to mum and dad, I'll crawl before I use a wheelchair. Like it was
Yeah.
such a negative thing. And I look back now and I think how silly, the whole point of using these aids is to preserve your body, to give it a
Yes.
rest, and to be able to go out and enjoy things. And I've
Yes.
found that that's exactly what it did. So I'm really grateful for his support and shove in that direction of being open to using aids.
Well, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And yeah, that you're very lucky. Like, it's a real privilege to be someone's special person. You know what I mean? That you,
Yeah.
yeah, that you've got that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
that's
lucky.
brilliant. And wheelchairs, that's another story. I'm yet to find anyone in our situation with a progressive neuromuscular disease that has not enjoyed being in their wheelchair after months or years or whatever of falls and struggles and not being able to live in the moment, worrying about
Mm,
falling, all that sort of thing. So that's a really great story too.
yeah.
Yeah, so good on you. That's fantastic. Well, I think you seem to be knowing where all these questions are coming in, because my next one was, what device or gadget makes your life easier?
Well, I can add to the story. So just the
Okay.
other week, I actually got a walking stick for home because sometimes when I had been sitting at the desk for a while, I'm quite unsteady on my feet. And I was using my claw that I used to pick things up with.
Yes.
And Andrew said, I really don't think that that's very safe. It's a
Yeah.
plastic claw. It could buckle
Yeah.
under you at any time.
Not not ideal.
No, so I now have a walking stick for home as well, which has definitely made things easier as well. So I
Yeah,
use that at
great.
home now instead of the claw, and I've got the chair when I go out. My grandfather, who passed away in December of last year, left me his motorized scooter. So I've got that in the garage waiting for warmer weather to kick in again so I can try that. I've had a little practice run, but I'm not very confident with my driving of the scooter yet. So that'll
Well,
be a slow progression, I think.
you'll get there. There's all those fun little times, little learnings, these
Yeah,
fun little challenges.
absolutely.
Oh, that's great though. Yeah, to have to have yet another option for you. And what resource do you think has helped you navigate your MD, as far as, like whether it's your physical community, social networks, anything at all really, or an OT or whatever it might be that's helped you navigate your MD?
It's probably a combination of people. Like having worked in a general practice for many years, I had the support of all the doctors that I worked with who, would give me ideas or suggest certain things that might be good for my condition. I always went to the neurologist once every second year. And, they'd always give me other advice as well on supplements that, I could try taking or different exercises that I should try other than what I'd been doing. And I think just Google. Google is very helpful as well. Mm. And then connecting with people like yourself online who have a type of dystrophy that get you and understand where you're coming from and what your struggles are, or,
Yeah,
if they don't have an answer, they've at least got some supportive advice for you that, still helps in the long run anyway.
that's it's good for other people to know as well. And
Mm.
finally, what is your advice to other people newly diagnosed? What would you say to anyone that's been diagnosed this week, the week they're listening to our podcast
Don't be
episode?
scared. Number one, don't be scared. It's not scary. It's just different. Um, Number two, you know, reach out to others that are living with the same condition because they'll be able to give you advice and support and ideas about, anything that you've got questions about that maybe your neurologist or pediatrician or your GP can't answer because they're
Hmm.
not going through that themselves. And I think thirdly, everyone's journey is different. There's no set timeline of when things will progress or how things will progress and what will happen when that does progress. Everyone's unique and they've got their own unique ways of living and progressing and maybe not even progressing. You might plateau for quite a long time and then find that all of a sudden you're starting to feel like you're progressing again. But it's not scary. Just don't be scared.
Great. Beautiful, beautiful line to end up on, I think. And I really appreciate your time, Shae, and I know
Thank
that
you.
you will be helping a lot of people listening to this episode. This is Leanne. Thanks for your time in listening to this podcast, You, Me and Muscular Dystrophy. To continue to help our community, it would be so great if you could like, share, subscribe and or comment on the show. Your feedback is always appreciated, and if you would like to be a guest, please contact me through Instagram, Leanne's_wheel_life, or email leanne@leanneswheellife.com. Take care until we come together on the next episode of You, Me and Muscular Dystrophy.